And Annie, you were in court yesterday with the presentation of those letters as well as the testimony of 8 witnesses. And, you know, it's got to be difficult for the media and obviously those people on the jury.
It certainly is. Even just hearing you guys read excerpts of those letters just brought me back to how I felt yesterday when federal prosecutors actually showed those letters. We didn't actually get to read, they didn't actually read them out loud to the jurors. They briefly showed them up on a big screen, a big projector. It was also the first time that Steve Groene, he said that that's the first time that he had ever seen those letters. He was verifying that those were his children's handwriting. And I mean, what a horrible way to find out about these letters. I mean, knowing that they were to him. Dylan and Shasta wrote these letters to him while Duncan held them captive. So that was the first time that we saw those letters, the first time that Steve Groene saw those letters. We also heard for the first time from Shasta. There was a dash cam conversation recorded in a police cruiser just moments after she was discovered at that Denny's restaurant on July 2nd. In that conversation, it lasted about 10 or so minutes off and on, the officer just trying to talk to her, and he basically said it appeared like she really needed to tell someone what had happened over the past 7 weeks. She told the officer that Duncan brought her back home because she taught him how to love again. When the officer asked about her brother, she said that he was in heaven and that she described what happened to him. She also talked about how she told the officer that she knew that Duncan had perhaps killed more people than police officers may ever know about, which was a chilling thing to hear. And just to hear her voice and what her demeanor was like. I mean, she was upset, she was crying, and so that was tough to listen to as well, because that's the first time we've ever heard her voice in court. Also, other witnesses that were called up, Detective Brad Maskell, he was the lead detective in the murders at Wolf Lodge. He talked about step by step how Duncan methodically attacked the family and what he did afterwards, and that was tough to listen to as well. You know, we kind of got a preview of what we were going to hear the day before in opening statements, but Brad Maskell really went detail by detail, and you could tell a lot of the jurors were once again disgusted, and it's certainly not getting any easier. Mike, Clyde?
Annie, describe Steve Groene's reaction to all of this. As you said, it was the first time that he saw these letters. He's also sitting in court hearing his daughter reveal what she went through in the 6-week period. What was his reaction, his demeanor?
Well, when he was on the stand, he was very calm. He didn't have too much of a reaction when he saw the letters, and I don't know if that's because maybe he already knew about them. So he just looked at them and said, yes, those are my children's handwriting. As far as what he looked like when Shasta was actually giving that dashcam conversation, I'm not sure what he looked like, because I was actually in the media room when that was being played. I understand that they actually didn't show her face, it was just her voice. So I don't know what he looked like, but I know throughout the trial, even the last 2 days, we've been here 2 days now, sorry, that, you know, a few times he'll close his eyes and kind of take a deep breath and, you know, hold his significant other's hand and kind of just lean on each other for support. Clyde?
Annie, in the letter that Dylan wrote to Shasta, he refers to someone as Jet. Can you put into context who Jet was?
From what we're understanding, Jet, perhaps he told Dylan and Shasta that his name was Jet. Because I'm trying to think, when we're reading in the conversation, the dashcam conversation, there was a point where she talked about Jet bringing her home, and she said Jet. We're making an assumption that she's referring to Joseph Duncan, but we're not sure. But the fact that Dylan's also mentioning a Jet in his letter makes us believe that perhaps he was telling the children that his name was Jet and not Joseph Duncan. Mike?
Yesterday, Duncan asked 2 witnesses some questions. However, they're kind of bizarre. Tell us about that.
Well, yeah, they were interesting. And, you know, he's been fairly quiet this entire time since, you know, everything has started. You know, he said yes, no, no objections. The first person he cross-examined was an FBI agent, lead FBI agent out of Coeur d'Alene. And they showed the Conoco surveillance video. That's that that video that we see of Shasta and Duncan inside the Conoco station in Kellogg, they showed that. It was about 8 minutes long, showed them walking through the aisles, and was over. He said, I have a question, and he wanted the court to go back to the last frame of that video. And so we're looking at the last frame of the video, and he says that he sees a police cruiser pulling out, driving by when Duncan and Shasta were in their red Jeep pulling onto the freeway. And he said, did you notice that police cruiser? I didn't see the police cruiser in the video because we couldn't stop that last frame and freeze frame it. And the FBI agent said, no, I didn't. And then that was the end of it. There was no follow-up question, no redirect. That was it. He also cross-examined the Denny's restaurant manager. And in that conversation, he wanted to clarify. It was mostly for clarification. There was no challenge of the facts. He said, you served the milkshake with glass and also in a metal container. Sometimes restaurants will do that, and they'll give you the extra amount of milkshake. He said, is that typical? Do you typically give, us 2 things of milk? Yes, that's true. And then he asked her about where she was standing, staring at him, and if she typically did that with every customer. And that was about it. It was just for clarification. The conversations really lasted just a few minutes. Clyde?
Annie, thanks so much, and we'll continue to check in with Annie throughout the day. You can also get up-to-the-minute updates on our website, kxly.com, throughout the day here on our website. Again, kxly.com.